For the 2021 Seoul Biennale, we have chosen to look at my very dear city, the city of Beirut, its mechanisms of defense and survival in the wake of a number of events we have chosen rather subjectively. These span over a period of about a dozen years. Each of the 100 events is represented by a card, which is connected by an arc to its respective point of impact on the map of the city. In the center of the installation, the map is framed by a square. The perimeter of the square frame is punctuated by a list of projects, more precisely 48 architectural commissions we were given, of which the majority was built during the past 12 years. Each project listed around the frame of the plan is connected to its respective location on the map of Beirut. This subjective take on the city's recent past frames our projects within the context of some of the most complex and sour realities that preceded and accompanied and followed these 48 architectural acts. Altogether, these 48 commissions add up to over 450,000 square meters of built-up area, totaling an estimated budget of over $600 million. They include, among others, the Bank of Beirut headquarters, the Saifi 450 Tower, Plot 1282, the Mbema Museum of Contemporary Art, the Skyline Tower Plot 1072, Plot number 4371, the NBK Project Plot 2251, the Beirut Fitness Center, the intersection of the derailing Beirut with the Holiday Inn Hotel ruin, the POW drone, the Yabani Project, the Central Project, the B018 Project, the Evolving Scars proposal. The following slides are a selection of these cards with a narrated short description of each event they refer to.
Lehman Brothers face an unprecedented loss due to the continuing subprime mortgage crisis. Bernard Madoff, a quiet force on Wall Street for decades, is arrested and charged with allegedly running a $50 billion Ponzi scheme in what may rank among the biggest fraud cases ever. I saw the crisis coming, and I told the commercial banks in 2007 to get out all the international investments related to the international market, says Riyad Salemi, the current governor of Lebanon's central bank. Lebanon is one of the only 7 countries in the world in which the value of the stock market increased in 2008. The Lebanese economy continued resilience, growing 8.5% in 2008. Imad Qaddura, head of the Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery Department at the American University of Beirut's Medical Center, estimates that demands led Beirut to be held as the cosmetic enhancement capital of the Arab world. Lebanon has been seeing greater stability, drawing foreigners to its snow-capped mountains and stunning Mediterranean seaside. The New York Times ranks Beirut as the #1 travel destination worldwide due to its nightlife and hospitality. From nudist beach parties and wild bashes hosted by the likes of Paris Hilton, to gay clubs, gambling, and showgirls, Beirut is rapidly earning a reputation as the Sin City of the Middle East. An article in Al Bayan states that the cost of a 50 square meter apartment in Beirut, which in 2004 would have cost $60,000, rose to an outstanding $400,000. Sensational circuits allows the discovery of the city at a very high speed. Derailing Beirut is a rail network connecting various points in the city. Seen here, intersecting with the Holiday Inn Hotel, which was demolished in 1975 and remains in ruins to this day. Baalbek Festival showcases outstanding productions featuring David Frey, Caracalla Dance Theatre, Deep Purple, Ron Carter, and Eddie Palmieri. The government collapses after Hezbollah and allied ministers resign. The start of the Syrian war causes tension in the area, affecting the Lebanese tourism sector. More than 100 residents are killed in Al-Bayyada, Syria, a neighborhood under the control of the Free Syrian Army, after government forces attacked with chemical weaponry. US President Barack Obama pledged that any use of chemical weapons by the Syrian regime would be a game changer and announces that the US is launching an investigation into reports that the Syrian authorities used chemical agents in the attack on the rebel forces. The MV Roses, carrying 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate, docks at Beirut's port due to technical problems. After inspection, port officials deem it as forbidden from sailing. Ammonium nitrate can be mixed with other substances to make a bomb. The Assad regime is suspected of using ammonium nitrate in barrel bombing operations against civilian targets. Unemployment reaches 46%. Deposit interest reaches 10%. Commercial banks' total deposit dropped from $240 trillion in 2017 to reach $180 trillion in 2018. Stage 0, a proposal for a museum of contemporary art in Beirut. At this point in time, due to the many conflicting histories of our recent past, the museum does not have a collection. There will be no acquisitions either. Instead, the artworks will be borrowed from local private collections. The art will be exhibited in caves hidden behind the retaining walls of the excavated site. On August 4th, 2020, at 6:08 p.m., the Beirut port explosion kills 218 people. 7,000 people are wounded, of whom at least 150 acquired a physical disability. 77,000 apartments are damaged, displacing over 300,000 people, 80,000 of which are children. The explosion affects 163 public and private schools and renders half of Beirut's healthcare centers non-functional. A 26-year-old nurse, Pamela Zaynoun, saves the lives of 3 premature babies by extracting them from smashed incubators. The nation is left with less than a month's reserve of grain, as the explosion destroyed Lebanon's main grain silo at the Beirut port. 56% of the private businesses in Beirut are affected and closed down. A stream of red liquid runs through the riverbanks of the infamous Beirut River. The toxic red liquid flows into the Mediterranean. The President and Prime Minister admit that the explosion was the result of the detonation of 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate that has been stored for 6 years without safety measures at the Beirut port. ES 991 was initially proposed in 1991, a few months after the end of the 1975-1990 Lebanese Civil War. The device was conceived to demolish war-torn buildings while registering the subjective memories of those who engaged in the demolition process. Some 30 years later, once again, the act of demolition becomes an architectural act. According to the World Bank, the explosion caused an estimate $3.8 to $4.6 billion in material damage. The abandoned tracks of derailing Beirut, seen here in the banks of the Beirut River. Near the ruins of the explosion at the port of Beirut, Lebanon, wheat grains scattered from the damaged silo grow into ears of wheat. Increase in the Lebanese pound unofficial rate to reach as high as 22,300 per $1. Water supply systems are on the verge of collapse, making over 71% of people at risk of losing access to water. Lebanese citizens in complete state of denial, partying regardless of the current situation. Lebanon observes a National Day of Mourning on August 4, 2021, the first anniversary of a major explosion at the port of Beirut. Families of the victims and other Lebanese come out into the streets of Beirut to demand accountability. One of the abandoned capsules of derailing Beirut, seen on the Beirut Corniche, rolled by a Syrian refugee. A newborn baby is found alive in a trash bag on the street. Paris and Beirut experience an unprecedented phenomenon where most of the neighborhoods get less than 2 hours of electricity per day.
My city is bleeding, contaminating the Mediterranean basin with its toxic fluids. On August 4th, 2020, Beirut took another major blow. Today, more than ever, its deeply scarred fabric is in desperate need for assistance. As a practitioner, I've been drawn to problematic territories. Most of the grounds I've operated on were either highly sensitive zones, cities undergoing convalescence, or regions in which the state and its institutions have failed to regulate or control the growth of the urban tissue. Beirut is a striking example that I often call a wonderful catastrophe. A city that, over the last few decades, witnessed a rapid and chaotic development. In the absence of federating and consensual political projects, our neighborhoods are shaped by individualistic and distinctive gestures that do not compose with each other. They are often driven by defensive postures that are the result of the inability to predict the future of the surrounding context and the danger of what can be coming right around the corner. In such conditions, you have to be extremely alert. Engaging in any kind of speculation or assertive stance over the future settings of a project could be lethal. We have taken that risk in many of our schemes that I would describe as voluntarily masochistic and sometimes suicidal propositions. There is no comfort zone in the unstable grounds where the most fundamental rules of urban planning don't apply. This is the result of the total bankruptcy, the incompetence, and the corruption of our state institutions. In such conditions, architecture has to be a political act. What could be at the outset an ordinary program can take on a whole other dimension. When the state does not build parks, memorials, museums, opera houses, social housing, the most ordinary programs such as a residential development, a nightclub, a corporate office tower, or commercial building have to be considered as projects that can hold a political charge. These private undertakings, which initially do not bear any heavy social or political accountability, can be the grounds for another kind of radicalism. This is where architecture should take on another kind of political responsibility in formulating a history that is non-consensual and not necessarily affirmative. I did not choose my battlefields. I choose to take action on distressed grounds where meaningful and generous efforts are much more needed. Thank you.